So this just into the Rock and Metal News Studios. My boy just hit me up on Facebook saying, "Did you hear the news?" And I go, "The news?" He goes, "Yes, the annual Earthday Birthday Music Festival out in Orlando, Florida at the Orlando Amphitheater is not happening." Hey, what up everybody? It's your boy Trevor, back with another Rock and Metal News video. And as you guys can read, it's from WJRR Earthday Birthday's Instagram, and it says, "It is with great disappointment that we announce that WJRR's annual Earthday Birthday Festival will not be taking place in April of 2025. Because in 2024, Earthday Birthday was headlined by Stained, Seether, Asking Alexandria. They had Dayseeker, Fozzy, Soul, just to name a few of the artists that were there. So it's a one-day music festival hosted by the radio station out in Orlando, Florida, WJRR.
Which we supported before they even broke nationally, who would be eager to come and play in front of the listeners of a radio station in a market where their music's getting played. And subsequently, their record labels were also interested in helping support the event. And it was a joint venture where everybody was involved to pull this together and make things happen.
So it was a party that we'd throw for you and make it as affordable as we could. That's not really the case right now.
And over the years, as the competition grew, the concert festival business started to actually become a business unto its own. If you recall, big, huge music festivals used to be much more of a European thing, all right? It's newer here in the U.S. on a regular basis, blueprinted here in the United States. You all know that. You've been to many of the shows yourself, and they can go on 3-4 days, sometimes over 2 weekends, and in some cases, hundreds of bands perform. Who pays for that? Well, the short answer is the concert ticket holder does, all right? And these shows are so big and have so many bands that the amount of money that's needed to fund everything that goes along with putting on one of these shows can be covered because you've got so many fans coming and paying a high fee to go to these shows. That covers the cost of all this stuff, and everybody ends up making a little bit of money because at the end of the day, it is a business, all right? That model doesn't work for Earthday Birthday. It just does not.
At the end of the day, we would be what we could afford, and that in turn our listeners, you could afford, would be not the best bands. I mean, they're not shitty bands by any means, but not the best bands. And we want to have the best bands like we always used to.
Pay them, though, okay? But we don't want to book the same bands year in and year out. We just don't want to do that. And also, a lot of these bands, I'm going to be honest with you, they could get paid more doing a larger festival, a multi-day festival, and a lot of times they do because the booking agent never even lets it get to our level.
Because as a music fan, I've been to 98 Rock Fest twice. Loved it. I went to Earthday Birthday last year. I thought it was pretty well ran. I was like, it's ran great. They have 2 stages. One's at the amphitheater, then they have like the main stage with the bigger bands, right? Like I said, it was Stained, Asking Alexandria, Fozzy, and Seether. And it was a good show, right? But a lot of people are saying it's lower tier bands. Like Seether, I wouldn't put them as a super high level like band that's going to play Welcome to Rockville in front of 80,000 people headlining. I could see them being at like the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, even like 5 o'clock time frame. Just like Fozzy, they're a band that can perform at a high level, but they're not a band that typically gets a headlining spot at these major music shows. That's just something they just don't do. What you're seeing is Seether at Earthday Birthday. It says, but originally Welcome to Rockville was only in Jacksonville, right? And that's what it was. And Earthday Birthday and 98 Rockfest always was something that they put on with smaller bands. And now, according to what that you just seen, it says they can't afford the major bands anymore. They can't afford the bigger acts. And they don't want to put on a show with like the same acts over and over and over. Because if you look at festivals like, what was it, like Monsters of Rock Mayhem Festival, they said the same thing. And Summer Slaughter, they got sick and tired of just promoting the same bands year in and year out, and people just stopped going because it was the same like deathcore bands or the same hardcore bands every year, and it wasn't something that people enjoyed. But they also mentioned, as you noticed, that the artists could play Earthday Birthday and make a little bit of money, but also in maybe a month later, they could play the bigger festivals. They're not saying Welcome to Rockville is the issue, but again, they're saying it without saying it. That's the truth. They're saying, hey, there's a problem here, and this is the issue, and this is what's going on. Because honestly, this venue where Earthday Birthday is held is a very small venue that holds maybe 16,000 people. And if a band like In This Moment can play Earthday Birthday and maybe make $10,000, I don't know what they make, but if they can go play Welcome to Rockville, which is like a month after, they would rather go do that and make $50,000 or whatever they're going to be getting paid, because the bigger venue makes more sense, more audience, and like they said, it is all based around, like they said, it says, I also have wondered if part of it, my friend wrote, I also have to wonder if part of it was the station simply couldn't afford the bands anymore. Plus, you have a lot of bands that focus their tours around Welcome to Rockville, Sonic Temple, Incarceration, which in turn make it impossible to get a band to show up in April if they're going to be at Welcome to Rockville a few weeks later. And that is the truth. These mini, like, one-day festival shows that you get aren't viable anymore because they would rather go to the bigger show and make more money than they could make doing a show like Earthday Birthday. That is what I'm gathering from their conversation. It sounds like that is what's happening. So these Radio Rock one-day festivals, you're not going to get the headliners. You're not going to get like the Killswitch Engage, the Lamb of Gods, the Slayers, because they say they just can't afford the bigger bands, and they just don't want to have the same acts every year performing. Earthday Birthday, 98 Rock, and the festival that they have in St. Augustine, Florida, which is Band Camp, which is put on by the local radio station. I just believe these small little radio festivals might not happen anymore due to the fact that the Taco and the other dude were mentioning on their little off-the-air podcast that they just can't afford these artists anymore based upon the ticket prices being so expensive, and the artists that people would want, like the Lamb of Gods, the Killswitch Engages, the Falling in Reverse, they just can't afford them anymore. Maybe 5 years ago when Falling in Reverse was small or Jelly Roll was small, they could afford them, but now it's not a viable option. But without them saying it, they said a lot. They basically said they can't afford major headlining artists anymore, and they don't want to rehash the same artists all the time so the fans could have new, fresh music. Because if you have the same artists coming in and out like Stained and Seether, eventually it's going to get stale, right? You don't want to see Fozzy all the time. You don't want to see Dayseeker. You want the bigger artists, and that's why most music fans in Northeast Florida and South Georgia go to Welcome to Rockville because it has the best artists in the world: Metallica, Pantera, you name it. Those bands show up there. They get paid good money, and they're saying they can't afford the big acts anymore, and it's not a viable option. And also, they can only get mediocre artists to perform at Earthday Birthday. And they say the ticket prices would have to be crazy for us to even get a Stained or a See There Again. But always, they do kind of say it without saying it, that the reason they're no longer able to do this is due to the fact that there's Welcome to Rockville a month later. And like my buddy was saying in his message to me, most artists set their schedules around Welcome to Rockville, Louder Than Life. They set those because those are the money-making events with the biggest crowds in the United States, and that's why they play those instead of these one-off April shows. So it's your boy Trevor back with another video. That is why Earthday Birthday 2025 won't happen, and 2024 is probably the last one you will ever have. It sucks because more festivals mean more music for the fans, but again, they just say they can't afford it.